to the Turkish-Saudi relationship, Barbara. You're talking about international politics, international relations here. So step in the United States, a key ally to Turkey. It is a NATO ally of Turkey, obviously, and a huge ally to the to the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. Trump visited, or chose Riyadh as his first foreign visit. The Saudis are the US's biggest buyers of military equipment, and therefore the US has also weighed in. Step in the United Kingdom, also selling huge amounts of weapons to Saudi Arabia, as well as other European countries that have business interests in it. And that's why it is no irony or coincidence that it was maybe only when we saw the Saudi markets shift, it was only when we suddenly saw this domino effect of huge multinational corporations, one after the other, pulling from this future investment conference, or the Davos in the desert, as it's been called, that we suddenly saw some movement. We suddenly saw that the Saudis said, okay, Turkey can come in. We suddenly saw that the US decided to dispatch its Secretary of State, Mark Pompeo, and we suddenly saw the Turks come out with an official statement, or at least one to Al Jazeera that we can attribute to an official body here. So it's not just the international politics, it's the billions of dollars, it's the interest groups, it's the multinational corporations, Barbara, and all of that, it seems, is dictating. And just to kind of finish up this point on one very important element of it, one of the worrying things is that the theories being touted now, like we heard from Donald Trump about possible rogue elements, like we're hearing now from Saudi media about rogue elements being behind this and not the government, the fact that these theories are being pushed forward by politicians and not by the police, not by the investigators, that is a worrying issue, because it would appear to be seen that it is the politicians who will decide the narrative that will explain the disappearance and or murder of Jamal Khashoggi, and not the investigators who should be taking the lead in what is a criminal case.
Jamal Kashoggi with the latest there from Istanbul. Jamal, thank you. Well, now we're joined in the studio by Al Jazeera senior political analyst Marwan Bashara. Marwan, lots has happened since we last spoke. Obviously, that line coming out of the Turkish investigators saying that they have found evidence now which suggests that basically their theory was right, that Jamal Khashoggi did die at the consulate. Don't know yet, murdered or how, but did die there. What's your response to that and everything you've sort of been following since it broke about an hour ago?
You know, it's been sort of a drip, 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 right, for the last 2 weeks. It's almost as if life has turned into fiction and we're all just drawn into this unraveling story, unraveling mystery of the killing of one of our own, a journalist, on the hands of an authoritarian regime in the midst of a different country, in this case in Istanbul, in a consulate. So we have an international crime scene now that's been looked at, and we have various conclusions, and we have still more leaks now coming out about possibility of the Saudis preparing a report that they did in fact commit a crime, albeit not intentional, as it were, and of course the prosecutor. So all in all, it's drip, 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 but the facts are coming out. The circumstantial evidence was clear from the beginning, meaning a man went into a consulate, never walked out. The people in the consulate brought in Associated Press and Reuters to look in the cupboards. They didn't find anyone, so that was the story. The big question now is, who's responsible? Is it really a rogue element that was one of the team that was sent in there to interrogate and ended up killing the poor journalist? Or were there orders given from top, sending 2 teams in 2 separate planes with some very interesting characters amongst them in order to interrogate Jamal and eventually kill him, kidnap him, or whatever? I think that's the big question now for everyone. Second, once you answer the question, what then? Do you hold anyone responsible for it? Do you impose sanctions? Do you demand that they step aside or step down? Or do you cut diplomatic relations and so on and so forth? For the time being, what is apparently clear, as your previous guests from New York said, they are trying to orchestrate the conclusion. They're trying to package the result between Ankara Riyadh, and Washington.
Because it is sort of all happening together, is it? We get the sort of admission from the prosecutor's office, they have found evidence. At the same time that Mike Pompeo is flying over to Saudi Arabia, and that there's reports coming out on American media that actually they think the Saudis will come out and make an admission that basically was an interrogation gone wrong. I mean, considering we've been talking about it for 13 days, all of that has happened in the space of, what, I don't know, 5-6 hours? So, I mean, that in itself is a coincidence that leads to the orchestration conclusion, doesn't it?
Hence the definition of orchestration. That's exactly the definition of orchestration, how each instrument plays its role at the same time in order for the opera to sound convincing, sounds musical. But I tell you, I've been looking at social media feeds and responses to the various leaks that have coming out. And I tell you categorically, I haven't seen a single person that has bought into this new scenario that has been advanced today and yesterday. No one.
Which one specifically? The interrogation gone wrong?
The interrogation gone wrong, or there's rogue element or whatever. No one, after 2 weeks of lies after denials after lies, is buying into the new lines, and it's clearly orchestrated.
It'll be very interesting to see what official reaction there's going to be out of the Saudis and the United States. Marwan Bashar, as always, thank you.